Hello there, people of the internet. I have had people time and time again tell me that they're not going to prepare for any sort of situation or get ready for anything because nothing ever happens, and they are just living the absolute lavish lifestyle that they've come to enjoy and be accustomed to in the modern society that we live in. And I was absolutely astonished at just how many people are completely unprepared, even in the area that I'm living in. It really is amazing how just the sheer number of people who are completely unprepared for even the most mundane, mediocre of situations. And it really has me leaving myself questioning what it is that I want to do and where it is that I want to be. So the reason why I'm saying this is because this is like just right at the start of September of 2023, and we just had a Category 4 hurricane absolutely demolish its way through North Florida, and a lot of people around here took a lot of damage. And this is like 7 days or so at time of recording this video. It probably will be put up at a much later point. But this is 7 days or so since the hurricane hit. And the roads still have a lot of blockage in them. And the town is still vastly without power. And there is a lot of things going on that interrupt the natural lifestyle. And I have seen neighbors on my road, out on the road, like neighbors on this upcoming street right here that leads over to my neck of the woods. I've seen my neighbors out there on the road with signs begging for resources simply because they were not prepared. They didn't have enough set aside to be able to take care of themselves for any real length of time. Most of the time, we are told have enough resources for 3 days or something like that, but then you'll have a natural disaster like what we just had here, and power will be out for a week, and the town will be down for a while, and getting to town is difficult. So, there's literally people out on my street that are begging because they are out of resources. It's not really a good situation. So for the people who say I don't need to prepare because nothing ever happens, there are times where things do happen. This is day 7, I think, maybe day 8. I can't remember what day it actually is. But power's out. We got a generator. We got water supplies. We got food supplies. We got everything we need to be able to sustain ourselves here on this property. But my neighbors are not so inclined to get themselves all that prepared. As a matter of fact, I know that just from how would I say that, it is not only the situations where it is people without power and running out of resources that are the problem. The emergency services here in this town are also quite scattered, and they're not able to keep up with the demand. As a matter of fact, in the actual hurricane itself, they set out a bulletin and said, hey, if you need help, the hurricane is really bad and we're sorry, but we can't get to you. That's basically just their way of saying you're on your own. And if there's a situation where emergency services are saying, hey, you're on your own, then guess what? You're on your own. You know that, and people who want to take advantage of you know that. I know 2 different people who have been, how would you call this? They weren't necessarily robbed, but they were treated badly by people who were under the guise that there would be zero consequence with how they treat other people, simply because emergency services currently have better things to do. I mean, if these people had more resources available to them, and they weren't necessarily people who were completely unprepared for the situation, then perhaps they could have been robbed. But the bottom line between that is there are situations where emergency services simply cannot get to you, so you're on your own. As a matter of fact, we saw this very, very, very heavily in 2020 and 2021 with all the burning of the cities and whatnot, and the pandemics and the coup floof and the George Floyd riots and everybody panicking and freaking out and just demolishing like entire large cities. Emergency services were not getting to those people. and they full on said, hey, we're not going to be able to get to you, you're on your own. And so there were a lot of people that were completely caught off guard, and they were of the mindset that if something ever happened, I can just call the police and they'll come save the day. That's not a mindset that you need to have. That's a mindset that is very thoroughly engraved in the people that are living in this society, because they just become so used to and accustomed to that, because they get so accustomed to the lavish lifestyle of not having to really take care of yourself. But once you get used to that point of not having to take care of yourself, you start getting like more and more accustomed to the mindset of, I don't even have to be prepared enough to be able to take care of myself. And this past hurricane has shown me just how many people are of that mindset, and how few people have to actually worry about taking care of themselves. My dogs are barking in the background like crazy. It makes me think that maybe we have someone here. Oh well, if we have someone here, then I'm sure we'll be fine. Tell you what, those would probably be some famous last words. Anyway, hopefully you guys see what it is that I'm talking about here. Hopefully you guys understand my concept of, yes, things do happen, and unfortunately, I think I'm preaching to the choir, because people who watch videos like this are probably the types of people who are under the what do you call it? They already have the knowledge that things happen. They have seen the things happen. They have endured the things happening, and people forget. People forget very, 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 very easily. Everything that happened in 2020 and 2021, we had literal years of SHTF situations, and here we are, not some 18 months or so later, maybe even less than that, but not that long later. And after all of that, we still have people preaching that you don't need to be able to protect yourself or take care of yourself, or you don't need to be able to live the American way. And I even see people like that here. I see a lot of people wasting a lot of resources because they're just under the guise of, well, I can go out and get more. I see a lot of people who are under the impression of, I don't need to have food or water supplies because the store is right up the road. And then we have a Category 4 hurricane hit, and the stores are down, so you can't go there and buy food and fuel, and now suddenly you're out on the street begging for resources because you have literally nothing. So on top of that, emergency services aren't going to be able to come save you because they are already stretched incredibly thin, and they are to the point to where they set out bulletins saying, hey, if you're in a situation, odds are we will not be able to come assist you. So this right here is a high point 9mm carbine, and I came out here to actually shoot this at that grill, and I wanted to make this video talking about it. Having some sort of means to be able to either protect yourself or gather some sort of game or do something. I know that there's a lot of people out there begging for resources, despite the fact that we literally live in the woods, and you can go out and get yourself just an absolute abundant level of resources out there. Not just the edible animals, but there's an absolute metric, literal ton of edible plants out there. Like wild wheat. Wild wheat absolutely like scatters and litters literally everywhere here in North Florida. Back whenever farmers used to grow like wheat and cotton all the time here in the state, well, I guess it kind of got away, and so as a result nowadays we have wild wheat everywhere. So if you know how to utilize it, then you would literally not go hungry ever. I could literally just go out into this area right here and start gathering wheat and make myself like bread and whatnot with what I've gathered. But the people have just grown so accustomed to going to the store and getting whatever it is that they want versus learning how to gather what it is that they need naturally. I don't. That's the end of that statement. I just don't. I'm going to go ahead and send some 9mm downrange here because I have a couple of rounds and I feel like launching some lead. This right here, the 9mm carbine. This wouldn't necessarily be an optimal pick for a survivalist situation, but you can't necessarily go wrong with 9mm. I got a lot of it. It's good on small stuff because it won't completely obliterate it, but within like 100 yards or so, I should be able to take even medium game with this. As a matter of fact, I remember one time, I think I've told this story. I got the hiccups again. I think I've told this story on this YouTube channel before, but I remember one time I was out here with my SKS making a video, and I spent all my rounds downrange. And I had this herd of wild pigs come running across my literal gun range right here while I was armed with my SKS. I just had no ammo, so I was not able to do anything about it. So I know that we got plenty of pigs. They're probably anywhere from 60 to 100 pounds. They're not overly big. 9mm would be able to handle those guys. We got plenty of boar around here. Those can range anywhere from like 200 to 400 pounds. This right here should still be able to handle that with proper shot placement. Deer around here get to be like 150, maybe 180 as far as weight goes. So they're not necessarily all that big, not unless you're going to go to an actual reserve or something like that. But in an area like this large wooded area that I have here, nah, there's the deer there aren't very big. But I tell you what, that 150, 180 pound deer, if I were to pick it up with our 9mm thing, it would feed us for quite a long time. And I have not heard any gunfire around us in the entire time that I've been out here, well, that we've been without power and without resources. It has just been people begging on the streets. So that tells me that they are either unarmed or have absolutely zero knowledge or capabilities whenever it comes to taking care of themselves or gathering from the land around them. And I tell you what, that is sad. That is very sad. Eventually, once they get hungry enough, they might figure out, hey, guess what? This place is littered with squirrels and possums and raccoons and various birds of all sorts. I might want to protect Kevin now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, we get critters that just come running through here all the time, and they're edible. And as hunger sets in, guess what? You might figure out, hey, this possum over here that's, you know, rummaging through whatever it is he's rummaging through, guess what? That's edible meat. I never would have thought to eat possum before, but I also haven't eaten it in 4 days, so let's give it a try. Yeah, they're not going to learn. As soon as power is restored and as soon as the stores are available once again, then they're going to have their, you know, pantry of food, or their 3 or 4 days of canned goods, or whatever it is that they had, their gallon of water to sustain themselves. They're not going to be prepared for the next time that this happens. And this is not the first time that this has happened. I know that, I can't remember how long ago it was. It wasn't that long ago, a couple of years maybe. We had another really bad hurricane that hit us, and like the entire town was underwater, and things were just absolutely destroyed. It was a huge mess. It was definitely not good. But we still had people then who were not prepared, and it's like the same people who are not prepared this time too. Yes, things happen. Be prepared for things to happen. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I will see you guys on the next episode. Since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Garen. Shame that bolt-action shotguns aren't more mainstream.